Hello, welcome back to Lloyd JD's 2 Minute Topics. I'm Lloyd.
I'm JD.
And today we're talking about cannabis, marijuana.
Yep.
They're sticky icky.
Mary Jane.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Chronic.
Weed.
Damn it.
So Canada is moving closer to legalizing marijuana. They're talking about having it either by 2018, potentially maybe a bit later, but they're looking for 2018. The Cannabis Act was released this week. They started talking about some of the rules and regulations that they are looking to accompany the legalization of marijuana in this country.
Kind of aren't bad. I'm going to be honest, okay, there's some bad stuff there, but that bad stuff, it could be worked out, but I feel like most of it is decently governed, kind of.
Right. I think there's going to be some growing pains, obviously, with the implementation of this, much like when prohibition...
alcohol, We've been through this a million times. We know it's going to be a hit or miss fucking thing.
And it's going to evolve, right? I mean, it used to be you could never buy alcohol on weekends. You know, there was all sorts of restrictions where you could buy it from. It had to be a government-controlled thing.
I think eventually we will end up in the same situation as alcohol in the fact that you can make wine in your basement and it's kind of... And I think that's where they're going with it. And I just feel like... it's their way of like easing themselves into it. Do you know when you tell yourself something's okay and you kind of have to ease yourself into it? And I feel like let's go through the rules and then people can make those decisions for themselves on how they feel.
The truth of the matter is Canada is one of the places that as a country is sort of leading the forefront. I mean, Amsterdam, obviously marijuana is legal, but beyond that.
It's not actually legal. Yeah. If you actually look at the laws in Amsterdam, it's actually still illegal to sell and own marijuana, but they've looked past drugs for so long in Amsterdam because they found it stopped criminal activity among the streets. It helped stop gangs. It helped stop other things. Right. They have ways that you can do heroin in a controlled environment. Yeah. Not that I'm saying go out do heroin if you're in a controlled environment. I'm just saying for those that were already addicted, instead of them being strung out on the street in front of your kids, they will bring them into institutions.
Yeah, so things like safe injection sites for people.
Exactly.
Clean
stops
needles.
AIDS, stops, there's more protection there and there's more understanding that the drug addiction is a real problem. Yeah. And it's not necessarily, once you're in an addiction, you can't necessarily help yourself. Yeah. But weed is completely different. It's not addictive, but carry on.
So first rule, obviously, is that the feds are going to make it so that if you're under 18 years of age, marijuana is a no-go.
Which is a good rule. Yeah. It's a good rule for any kind of stimulant, I think. Right. I think coffee should be fair. That's just me. I don't think kids should be drinking coffee. Yeah. It's a stimulant. Yeah. It wires you. And they've done many tests that say...
And it's highly addictive.
And they've done many tests that say it's almost as addictive as cocaine. Yeah. So, I just don't think kids should do that. But any stimulant...
Yeah. So if you're under 18, you're not going to be doing marijuana. Obviously, they're worried about bootlegging stuff. So there is basically an offense that's associated with that. If you sell to a minor, that you can basically land up in jail for 14 years. Up to 14 years.
That's a big sentence.
Right? Yeah.
Even on good behavior, you're serving like 8-9 years. Yeah. So that's not good.
Yeah.
Stay away.
So, I mean, in comparison, in Canada, establishments that sell liquor...
But it's a good
minors
rule.
Will get fined $7,000 to $10,000.
And it's a good rule. You shouldn't be selling to kids. If you are, you're an asshole. If you're under 18, deal with it. It's the way it is.
So the next one is to do with possession. So how much weed are you looking to possess?
Which is quite generous, I'm going to be honest.
So they're talking about personal possession, and they're talking about 30 grams of weed.
Which is just over an ounce. Yeah. It's a couple grams over an ounce. So that's a decent amount of marijuana. I don't... know many friends that walk around with an ounce in their pocket. So
if you are carrying more than 30 ounces, you are subject to a $5,000 fine and or 6 months in jail.
I think the way they've done it that way is because if you're carrying more than that, you're kind of looking like you're selling it. Yeah. Because why are you carrying that much marijuana?
And I mean, obviously, there is going to be a whole bunch of rules around how marijuana is dispensed, where it's sold, how it's sold.
Clearly, we can gather from these rules so far that I don't think you're going to be allowed to buy more than an ounce from any kind of place that's selling because you can't transport more than an ounce without it being illegal. So therefore, any kind of behavior having more than an ounce is going to have to be inside private property, which I think is okay.
Yeah. So
because I was confused because
so the next one goes on basically that possessing more than 4 plants can result in 14 years, but you can possess up to 4 plants.
And that's every citizen within Canada. Yeah. Anyone. And that you don't need a piece of card that says you can grow. This is just, I can just grow 4 plants
So I compare this to basically brewing alcohol.
Yeah, making wine.
Right. So you can make your own beer, you can make your own wine, but you can't really go take your wine and go sell it on the corner to anybody else.
People do.
It's illegal. Yes, people do. I mean, obviously people
sell their wine and to friends, but
bend the rules a bit. But I mean, generally speaking, those 4 plants are for personal use.
But I think people with these rules that are coming in brand new, I think they should stick to them 100%. I know, like alcohol, people bend the rules, and I think cops might look by it sometimes. Like if a cop found out you sold, your friend some of your homemade wine, I don't think you're going to end up in jail or with a massive fine. But because this is such a new thing that people are slowly easing themselves into realizing that weed's not such a bad drug, should maybe stick to the rules just to appease some.
I think basically, the 4 plant thing, okay, fine. I believe people are inherently lazy. It's a lot of work to grow marijuana, just like it's a lot of work to grow beer.
But it's nice to know that
I don't brew my own beer. I go to liquor store.
Exactly.
Why? Because it's way easier. If
but
I want beer,
nice
I go
to
there.
know those that really are into it can, without going to jail, and have the right to have 4 plants, which is a decent amount of plants.
Yeah.
I don't think you need more than 4 unless you're selling, because like you said, it's a lot of work. So unless I'm making money off of this, it's no reason for me to be doing it.
So, I mean, those are the basic rules in place. Nothing terribly outrageous. And obviously,
that's where it can get a bit confusing with the 30-gram rule, because you're having 4 plants. You're going to get more than 30 grams from your 4 plants. So I'm guessing that the 30-gram rule was just for public.
The 30-gram rule was for public places. So you can't walk around with a flowering plant in public. You can't walk around with it underneath your arm. Not that I don't know why anybody would do that. But the other thing is that, obviously, again, like you indicated, if it's more than 30 grams, obviously they believe that you are selling, and that's still not going to be kosher, essentially.
So I'm wondering now, are you allowed to buy clones, or do you have to start from seed? Because seed's illegal to sell.
Right.
Is a clone legal to sell because it's not flowering?
Right. I don't know.
Because if you read some of these, there is actually a non-flowering plant. Yeah, there is actually a law against having a non-flowering plant. So yeah, it's 4 non-flowering plants. You can have up to 4 harvesting plants. 4 plants total is basically what it is. Yeah, whether they're flowering or not. Yeah, but I'm talking about, like, if you're buying it, like, can you buy a non-flowering plant, or does that go into, like, you have to buy that from, like, a legitimate place? Like,
I would imagine you have to start from a legitimate source.
Because a friend could have a plant and give you a snipping and be like, here, grow this. Like people that do tomatoes do that. You know, can I do that?
I'm sure, within reason,
no one's going to catch me with a leaf.
And I mean, the other big thing that came up in regards to these laws were obviously people are concerned that people are going to get high and drive, much like alcohol. Mm-hmm. They're worried about people getting impaired and getting behind the wheel. There are some rules that go around that. It will be interesting because, as we know, with drinking and driving offenses, sometimes it's hard to get convictions.
So with smoking and driving, it's...
Yeah, so basically with smoking and driving, what they're going to do is they're going to have roadside swabs to see that if you've had basically THC in your system. How the swab works is that if you've had a joint within sort of 4 to 6 hours kind of thing, up to 6 hours, that it will show positive. And then from there, because it's based on nanograms in your blood, obviously they're going to have to do a blood test. So my guess is, unless you are hugely impaired, much like an impaired driver, if you're weaving back and forward on the road,
look fucked. Like if you look fucked, I'm guessing you're fucked.
And the thing is too, is they talk about it as well. There's the hybrid offense. So if you've been drinking and smoking pot at the same time, and you're high as fuck and drunk as fuck, you're obviously going to get charged with 2 different offenses.
Yeah. So for anyone watching, I don't advise anyone ever driving under. If you're fucked from a substance, if you feel you cannot drive, you shouldn't drive.
Absolutely.
And usually when you're drinking, you feel like you cannot drive because from 2 beers in, things aren't the same. Yeah. If you're smoking joints and because there's people out there that smoke this stuff as a medicine, they're smoking it all day, every day, and they become a bit acclimatized to it. There's going to be gray areas here where if they've smoked a joint 6 hours ago and they're driving a car, I don't feel they'd be impaired. If you look up the drug itself, it only lasts 2 to 3 hours is maximum high for marijuana. So kind of a shady area there because if you're over 3 hours, technically you're not high anymore. So, like alcohol, if you drink too much alcohol, you can wait a certain amount until you're not over the limit and you can still drive, but you're still got alcohol in your system.
And that will be the interesting thing with the driving thing, because as you indicated, studies show that typically when you smoke a marijuana cigarette, you're high for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
But that test will indicate, the mouth swab will indicate if you've had marijuana in a 4 to 6 hour window. So
6 hours after,
you are not high, according to medical research.
It's in your system.
But it's obviously in your system. They've detected it. So, I mean, obviously the blood test is going to become a thing.
And that's why I feel like they're really going to have to look for the inebriation in the driving, the swerving. Like if you've been pulled over for a dead...
They're going to have probable and reasonable grounds to believe that you are impaired in order to do that kind of stuff. Otherwise, it's going to get crazy.
Because there's people with jobs out there that can be really affected by this, that maybe smoke weed in their life, and I don't believe it affects their life. Like there might be doctors out there that smoke a joint on their off time. Like I don't want you doing brain surgery on me if you're stoned, but if you're smoking marijuana on the weekend, that doesn't affect me, and I don't think it should affect their life. I don't think they should get pulled over for a taillight and then somehow get swabbed because it was on the scent of the clothes on the weekend. You know what I mean? I feel like it could ruin lives more than it's worth.
Right.
Because, 6 hours after a joint, that's a long time.
But overall, I mean, my personal opinion is I think it's fairly progressive. I think it's
very progressive.
It's pretty good.
The 30-gram rule, I don't think anyone can complain with that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way that you could possibly be arrested for having too much weed on you unless you were actually selling.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are going to complain about the fact that, it's going to be licensed and it's going to be sold through dispensaries and all that kind of stuff.
And that part kind of sucks. As long as they keep the prices to what a good price, not backbreaking. You know?
But to be honest, that part it kind of doesn't matter because they are going to allow you up to 4 plants. So if you really don't care for that portion,
and if you're smart and you're actually willing to do it, you can survive on 4 plants and never kill them and never buy weed. Yeah. So you just set it up so 1 plant harvest.
Yep.
And then the other one's ready, and then the other one's ready, and then by the time they're done, they're ready again. So it's no.
And I mean, obviously, this hasn't gone through as a bill yet. It's not set in stone. It hasn't been voted on.
Things could change.
Things could change over time, but this is just sort of what they are looking at initially. So,
and I think they could up the plants to 6.
Yeah, they might. I imagine they'll keep it like relatively
6.
low.
I think 6. Yeah, I know not a low numbers, obviously for dealers and stuff. It'd be stupid if they gave you too many, but 6. If you plant raspberries, you plant 6, you know what I'm saying?
If you grow massive trees, I'm sure 4 is enough.
Yeah, but some people don't have the space, and that's why I'm saying maybe there should be something within the space, because if you're growing trees, it's different. But for people that maybe are using this medically, I'm thinking about people that really are going to want this because they can't afford to buy it all the time because medication's expensive. They're maybe using it for back pain, chronic pain, arthritis, any of the above, glaucoma. And it does work for these things, whether you believe in marijuana remedies or not. For them, it works. And there's people with seizures that don't get seizures when they smoke it. So I'm not going to hate them for smoking marijuana. So,
but that's currently legal now in Canada and has been for a while. You can go get a medical card.
Yeah, but I'm talking about them growing it.
Yeah,
and I just feel like
they can still do that now if you have your medical license.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I feel
that's
like
different
6,
again.
If you're going indoors, I feel like 6, and I feel like if you're outdoor, 4,
which you're not allowed to do.
So then you can't grow trees. Yeah, unless you've got like a whole room set up for growing marijuana.
And some people might just do that
for 4 plants.
Some people do it.
Well, you're worth more money than it.
Yeah. I have a friend who lives in the States, and he had her whole room dedicated to it because he uses it medicinally.
Yeah, but he was probably got a license which allowed him to grow more than 4 plants. So I'm wondering whether they will release a license above and beyond the 4 plant system.
Well, they will because, I mean, currently even now, Canada has manufacturers or marijuana grow facilities.
Let's call them farmers.
Farmers. So they're basically growing to supply the medicinal growers or the medicinal suppliers in
I would
Canada.
like that as a job because I've always wanted a job in plants. I wanted to take biology when I was in school. I'm good at growing plants. I grow tomatoes at home. I grow cactuses. I enjoy it. Yeah. So
you'll be set once this comes out. For at least 4.
It makes a lot of money. Cannabis farming without the flowering plant, if you're using cannabis as in hemp. Yeah. It's a huge industry, $1 million industry, because you can make oils, cooking oils, you can make food, you can make clothing from hemp. It's a huge industry. It sells into so many different industries, and so many people are using it these days. You go look at clothes; they're 100% hemp. 100% hemp bags. You've got hemp seeds that my girlfriend eats in her cereal now. Yeah. People are so using it in everyday life. There's hand cream with hemp in it. It's a huge, and if farmers could get into that, it would take farming from a job the way you're barely making it these days, because farming is a hard job these days. It's a lot of work. It's a big grind. And sometimes with the weather not paying out the way you wanted it, it can be hard. Where marijuana is easier to grow.
And depending on what the demand that's created by this, because I mean, there's obviously people that smoke marijuana now, even though it's illegal. And there are people that don't partake because it is illegal.
So how will
and
it
then
change?
There will
Will
be
it flip?
a population that will
JD be smoking marijuana in
Probably
a year?
not.
We don't know. He will. No. But, you know, and anyone who knows their history, growing cannabis fueled World War I and World War II. You know, they changed laws so that could fuel the war, you know, because they needed money.
Yeah.
And hemp makes fuel.
There you go.
You can make a biodiesel. But I'm Lloyd.
I'm JD.
Peace.
See ya.
Happy smoking.